Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Christy with Stitches by Christy. Um, we are in full swing with holiday sewing, and one of the most important Christmas decorations are the stockings. Um, I don't know about you, but I have been in stores and the stockings are really underwhelming. Sometimes they're super small and they're kind of pricey, which I'm okay paying for them if they're awesome, right? Um, so it's fun for me just to make our own stockings. My family is due for new stockings this year, and my daughter has been bugging me for them, so I thought this is a perfect time to just do it and to show you all how we do it. So the pattern I'm using today is from Ellie and Mac. It's called the Merry and Bright Stocking. It is a free pattern if you go to their website. It's one of the free ones. They have a small size and a large size. I'm doing the large size one today. So what we need to have, this pattern calls for like quilting cotton. You can absolutely use cotton spandex. I know we all have tons of that hanging around. You just need to make sure you interface it properly. If you use woven quilting cotton or whatever, you don't have to interface it. Sometimes I do. It really just depends on the fabric, so just use your best judgment. The fabric that I'm using today is pretty thick and sturdy, so I'm going to skip the interfacing. It also calls for on the cuff to use a quilting cotton. I like fur, so that's what I'm going to use. It is a mess. I have got fur all over my cutting table, all over me, but that's okay because it looks really adorable when it's done. Fur is a little bit more difficult to sew than quilting cotton, but if you stick it out and go slow, it is so worth it. So that's what we're going to use. So what you need to have is your main fabric, and you need 2 of the pattern pieces cut out. So I've got 2. Make sure they're mirrored so that you have them going the same way, or so they're both going the right way when you sew them together. Then you also need to have 2 of the same pieces of your lining fabric, mirrored again, your cuff piece, and there's pattern pieces that you'll print out for all of these. And then you need 1 piece for the little hang tab up at the top, the loop. You do not want interfacing on this, and I would use a quilting cotton or something thinner. Don't use cotton lycra or cotton, any kind of knit for that, because it will be really thick and it won't sew very nice, and it won't look very nice either. So go with just a thin piece of, you can grab a scrap of whatever you have. It doesn't even have to be your same fabric. You can see I picked just a gray because I had a scrap of it. So that's what I'm going with. So I will go ahead and we'll do this first, okay? What you want to do with your loop is you are going to fold it in half, and you can iron it if you want. I tend to just do a quick finger press and have a couple clips handy. So you're going to fold it in half, okay? But we don't want these raw edges exposed. You don't need to worry about the top and bottom edges because they'll be hidden inside the stocking. So you made a nice crease in there, and if you need to, if you can't get a nice crease, just use a ruler and draw a line in it. You just want that center marking. And then I open it back up, okay, and you can see my crease in there. Now you want to fold each of the raw edges into that center crease, okay? And just, again, a good finger press is really all you need. You can clip it if you need to, and do that with both sides so that they meet in the center. Okay, so I have them so they look like that. Now we're just going to fold the entire thing in half. And this is where I will stick a couple clips on here just to make sure it doesn't shift around on me. Okay, and we're not going to sew right this second. I like to do my prep work, as much of it as I can first, and then sew everything at the same time. So we've got that clipped together, so it's just a thin little thing, and then we'll set that aside. Okay, then you will take your cuff piece, fold it in half, and just clip down the long side, because we are going to sew that too. And then set that aside, okay? Now, let's do the main pieces first, okay? So you're going to put those so that they are right sides together. Okay. And we're just going to clip all the way around with the exception of the top. Don't close up your top. And you can use clips or pins for this part. Or if you're feeling rebellious, don't use anything at all and just hold it and hope that nothing shifts. Okay, so mine is clipped all the way around, and then I will set that aside. Okay, now for your lining pieces, we need to leave a place to turn it. So we are going to put them right sides together again, and you can figure out where you want to turn it. I like to just leave this bottom section of the foot part open. So I usually just take a marking pen and just make myself a mark. Leave, 3 or 4 inches, however much you need. So I just make marks there. I know it's hard to see on that fabric, right there and right there. And then I don't put any clips in that section just so that it makes me stop and think, ooh, don't sew there. You can do whatever you want. My brain just works a little bit differently and I need to be reminded of literally everything. So that is what I do. And you'll just clip the rest of the way around besides that little section that you want to leave open. Okay. So you can see I left this section to this section unclipped. I'm not going to sew that part. So we are going to go over to our sewing machine and we will just stitch everything that we just clipped. Okay, I am here at my machine and I am just going to, I'm going to start with this little guy and I'm going to just, on something this small, you don't necessarily need to do both sides. So I'm just going to do the open side where I put the clips, okay, and just top stitch that closed. That one ready. I'm just gonna go ahead and clip it in half just so it's actually completely ready. I just put a little clip on it and set it aside there. Okay. Next, I'm going to go with my cuff and I'm just gonna sew down the edge there. And this pattern calls for a 1/4 inch seam allowance, which is the edge of my sewing machine foot. But honestly, if you prefer a 3/8 or whatever you prefer, you can use it as long as you're consistent throughout the entire thing. Okay, so if you use 3/8 here, you have to use 3/8 on the main pieces. Otherwise, everything won't line up correctly. So I've got that sewn. So what we're going to do with that is we are going to flip it to make our cuff. You're basically going to flip it in half. And then I like to go ahead and just put a couple clips on it because the fur is slippery. So I do the clip at the seam that I just made, and then I find the equal side, the other half, and match up there so that I have my cuff ready. Okay, and then we'll set that aside. Okay, now I'm gonna do the outside piece, and we're basically just gonna sew all the way around. Okay, And make sure you backstitch at the beginning and end of this one. So I've got that stitched all the way around. Now what we want to do is anywhere that it's curvy, we want to make little clips, just so it doesn't, it'll lay nicer once we flip it the right way. So you'll just grab your scissors and just make little clips. Everywhere that there's curvy, clip up to your seam, but do not clip your seams. And just anywhere that is even a little bit curvy, just go around and make snips all the way around. You can also trim your seam allowance down if you prefer that method better. On this personally, especially since I'm not using interfacing or anything a little bit more sturdy, I like to do it like this, just to avoid anything like ripping out. So I've got my toe done. I'm going to do this little section here too. And then the heel also. Okay, so that one is done. All right, now we're going to take this and we're going to turn it so that it is right sides out. And just reach your hand down in the toe, press it out all nice and neat like. Okay. All right. Now we're going to set this aside and we're going to do the lining piece. So with the lining, we're going to basically do the exact same thing, but don't forget about leaving your turning hole in wherever you chose. You can leave it if it's easier up here. I just like to do it in the foot. That way I don't ever see it. So just sew all the way around and make sure you leave that back stitch at the beginning and end of that turning hole too, because you'll be pulling everything through it and your stitches will pull out, okay? Okay, so I have got this stitched all the way around. I have left the hole for turning. Okay, and now I'm gonna do the same and clip all of my curves, and then we will put it all together. All right, so now we are ready to put the entire thing together and finish it up. From here, we are basically done with it. So you should have your exterior piece, and you want it to be right side out, okay? You have your loop that you have sewn up, and I just have mine flipped over so it's ready for me. You have your lining that you want to have the wrong side out, so it'll be inside out, okay? And then you have your cuff piece that is folded in half, so you have a nice top edge here, and then the raw edge is here with a clip at the seam and on the opposite side. Okay, so we are going to take our outside piece first, and then you are going to slide it inside of your cuff. I like to put the seam on my cuff with the back seam on the stocking, so like on the side where the heel is. You can do whatever you want, that's just my personal preference. So we'll just slide that right inside of there and match up the top edges, and this is where your clips come in handy. You'll know that the clips go with each seam on the sides, so it makes it easy, because sometimes the fur gets in the way and it's hard to see where everything is. And then I like to, especially if you're using fur, put a couple extra clips on there because fur is slippery. So I just put a couple clips around the top, making sure that your top edges all stay lined up. Okay, so we've got that. Now you're going to take your loop piece. If you haven't already folded it in half, go ahead and fold it in half. And you are going to put it over top of the seam on the back side, like where the heel is. I like to leave just a little bit hanging over the top because I don't feel like it needs to be super long, and that just gives you a little extra strength, more layers to pull through, I guess, if it does pull out. So you should have that clipped on the side like that, okay? And now we are going to put all of this inside of the lining piece. So you just kind of pull it through. You might have to go in through the hole that you left to kind of pull it down. If I can get into there. So I just reach up in there and grab the main piece. Get your cuff. Make sure everything stays attached. Don't lose your little loop. Don't lose the cuff. And then line up your seams on both. And then go ahead and just take the rest of the clips that you put around the top and just clip all the way around, making sure you're paying attention when you sew that all 4 of the layers, the 2 layers of the cuff and the 2 layers of the stocking itself, stay clipped together, okay? And that's what it should look like. And now we're gonna go back to our sewing machine and we're gonna just sew around the top of that. Okay, we are ready to sew this. If your machine has the accessory tray on it that you can remove that. It's gonna make it so much easier. See, mine just comes right off the back and it leaves this arm that you can just basically sew right around. So anytime you've got something that's round and you're just trying to sew around it, if you take that off, you can usually slide it right in like that. If yours does not have that option, just sew it from the inside. Just put it above like this and just sew it around. It takes a little bit more maneuvering, but it's not hard, okay? So since my accessory tray comes off, I'm gonna sew it like this, and we're just basically gonna sew all the way around, back stitch at the end when you overlap. And again, make sure you're watching all 4 of your layers to make sure they're all getting caught, okay? is all sewn around the top. So now what we're going to do is we're going to reach in through that turning hole that we left, and we're going to pull it out gently. Make sure you don't like rip anything. So you're just going to pull it all so that it's right side out. Okay. Now leave the lining pulled to the exterior because we need to close up our hole now. So you're just going to kind of pinch it in. Okay. And then I like to put just a couple clips on there just to make sure it stays put. And you're just going to use you can hand stitch it if you want. I'm pretty lazy when it comes to sewing, so I am going to just top stitch it with my machine. Just get as close to the edge as you can. Make sure you're catching all the layers. Make sure it's all tucked in nice and neat. If you just kind of finger press it, it'll make a good, it'll help it stay put. I couldn't think what I was trying to say. So just go ahead and close that hole up. Okay, now you're gonna just see how mine is top stitch closed, and then you're just gonna push the whole thing down inside. Down into the toes. If you need to use like, you know, a turning tool or something, a ruler, anything to poke it down in there just to get it to lay nice, do that. You should be able to get it with your hands though. So then, got it right side out, and then you'll just pull the cuff down. And you don't need to top stitch around the top edge or anything. It'll stay put. And that is it. And I've got threads all over mine. There is our stocking. So, I hope you all love this one. These are super quick make. And then you can have customized stockings for your family for Christmas. You can make them however you want. If you don't like the size, it's super easy. You can just take your pattern piece and add on 1/2 inch or 1 inch all the way around the perimeter. Just make sure you do it to all of the pieces because you want everything to line up. But it's super easy to make your own adjustments. And if you have a stocking that you like, just trace it. Add your seam allowance around, take the old stocking, lay it down on a piece of paper, add your seam allowance to every piece, and you can copy a stocking that you like. And then you would just sew it the same way. So there are our stockings, and I hope to see you back again. Bye.